Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Primrose ZJBima and I post content about research, running and mindfulness. Thank you so much to the over 1,432 of you who've subscribed thus far. And if you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to do so. We are aiming to reach 1,500 subscribers by the end of January 2025. Speaking of 2025, we are almost there. The arrival date is coming soon. And so I was thinking about what would I possibly speak about in my exit video of the year 2024. And I jotted down 5 key lessons I learned this year. I hope that these are lessons that you can also learn from. If it resonates with you, to also show you that you're not the only one, but also to spark conversations that can help you to think about how you would do life otherwise. Welcome to my channel once again, and this is a space where we get to do this life journey together. All right, so I've got 5 key points that I've jotted down, and if something extra comes up, then so be it. The first one is money matters. The second one is avoid shadow contracts. The third one is seek help. The fourth one is the importance of reskilling or upskilling. And the fifth one is don't leave your womanhood to fate. But I think even if you're pursuing a journey of manhood, this would still be something that applies to you. So, grab a cup of coffee, tea, water, juice, whatever it is, and just listen as I go through my thoughts and reflections. So when it comes to money matters, I think that over the first 2 decades of my life, obviously, I didn't think this particular way because my financial responsibilities were few to none, obviously in the first decade of my life. However, being 32 now means that I have come to the realization that I've got so much more that I need to put money into besides just accommodation, food, and transport, but also realizing how much I need to invest into my own future, but also into the futures of others. For example, people within my friendship circle and family, but also in terms of what I want to build business-wise, and also my intentions in terms of doing charitable work. So if you don't recognize that money matters and you don't think about managing your money matters, then you can only have ideas in your head, but you don't have a set plan and you don't also have an execution plan. So one of the key factors is you need to determine your needs and your wants and also start chasing financial goals. Find jobs and also find businesses and contracts, whatever you may, that will give you the money that actually suits your needs or your wants. If not, you realize that you're earning little and that little is not taking you far, then you have to make an exit plan and you have to make a plan that requires you to ensure that the hours that you build into anything that you invest your time in will actually earn you some money. Yes, it's okay to work for experience and earning skills. It's also good to work in terms of like getting to network and socialize within your sector, but money matters at the end of the day. Money towards your health, money towards your own well-being in terms of where you live, your feeding and your family's welfare, amongst other factors. So what that means is once you've determined how much you need to earn and you identify how you're going to earn it and ensure that you're earning it, you also need to determine the ways in which you wish to invest. I think that this varies from person to person. Also, our predispositions before we get to this age of, for example, 32 are different. And some of us do have certain privileges, maybe by virtue of coming from particular families. So you just need to make sure that your money matters make sense to you. Are you going to be investing in a property? What kind of property is it? Is it residential? Is it commercial? Is it for your own business? Or you're going to be hosting other people so that, you gain from the rental incomes? Also invest in travel. Travel to network for business purposes. Travel to market your services or your products. Travel to also grow yourself. Maybe it's about skills development. Is it a course? Is it a conference? Is it a workshop? And also, when it comes to skills development, also thinking about what you need to acquire so that you can make more money with those particular skills. Also, investing money in relationships. I believe it is very important, whether you are hosting events, whether you are going somewhere with your friends or with family members and what have you, that is very important. It doesn't come from nowhere. It has to be planned for, whether it's golf, whether it's hiking, whether it's camping, whatever the case may be, even if it's related to church and it builds you spiritually, it is an investment and it's relevant to always plan for that. And then also to think about investing in what I want to do when it comes to community. I've always wanted to have a charitable organization, but never got to it because I never have what I thought I would have as excess or a surplus. However, I've seen that it's important to also learn, for example, skills in applying for grants, applying for funding, and also trying to get tenders for particular services or products, because that also feeds into you making more money and also me making an impact, for example, when I decide to have my own foundation and what have you. So money does matter, because without it, then you can't do the most. So very important. Find out in the coming year what you need, what you want, and how best you can make that money, how you're going to get it, and also where you're going to sort of like put that money to good use. So that's it for me from 2025. And I hope that I'll put these into action. Number 2 is avoid shadow contracts. I have learned the hard way. So over the course of the year, I was trying to pivot from academia into doing a research consultancy as an individual consultant. But then I realized that much of my experience was from academia. And so in terms of contracts that related to non-governmental organizations or intergovernmental organizations, I decided that I would partner silently with people in these sectors and sort of like do work as a shadow researcher, shadow analyst, shadow writer, not necessarily like a ghostwriter, but it was a collaboration. However, the collaborations were not declared, for example, to the people that will be paying for this particular service or the research products that we were going to be producing throughout. So yes, I knew that I was going to get a particular amount, but going into it, I didn't bargain for deposits to ensure that, in the event that they didn't pay, I would have gotten a bit of something prior to doing the work. Also, when trouble came, so for example, let's say the person who's been contracted falls out to the people that contracted them, it means that me being in the shadows, I can't even get, for example, into a litigation process with the people that have cut the deal. I can't approach them and ask them multiple questions about, so how do we move forward? Because I already was not working with them. And also, it wouldn't be really good for me to bypass the person that I was working with to go forward to the contractor. So it was hard. And without sharing many more details, I just want to say that whilst you chase experience and whilst you're trying to get exposure to projects that you would otherwise not gain exposure to if you applied on your own, be very careful. Rather demand to have a collaboration so that you're already listed as a core researcher or as a research assistant, whatever the case may be in that particular project, so that whoever they're doing business with is also very much aware that, you are part of this deal. And also when they're working in terms of like how to disperse funds, and also when they're communicating any challenges, then they can also communicate with you directly. Second-hand, third-hand information is so difficult to take in because you don't know where the broken telephone happened. You also don't know what they're not divulging to you. And then at the end of the day, you lose out. I invested time. I could have been earning money in other ways. I invested time. I could have rested. Although, yes, I gained experience in writing particular types of reports, I can never regain the time that I lost and the income I could otherwise have made before the deal went sour. So whatever businesses you try to get into, make sure that even if it's a verbal agreement done via email, via a Zoom call, in person and whatnot, you also have a contract that you draw up with those particular people and that they meet their end of the bargain, so that you can also have documents or information that you can use to actually make claims in the future. So that was a rookie mistake for me as an individual consultant, and never again. So moving on to this, I was thinking, if I had had a lawyer. So number 3 is seek help. I think at this stage in life, we all need a lawyer. I might not need a lawyer, for example, to do drafting up of a will, because I don't think I've got anything that, that's worth putting down on paper and saying, I want to give this to my mother, my father, my brother, or whoever it is. But I do think that legal advice is very important when you're trying to start a business, when you're trying to grow a business, and also if you're going into a sector that is not necessarily catered for by and large. For example, some organizations fall under like engineering or accounting or legal firms and whatnot. But as an individual research consultant in the social sciences, that is often not very easy to find. So finding that person who can be my advisor, finding that person I can run to when, deals turn sour, and also finding that person that can help me to structure up everything. Yes, nowadays we've got AI. Yes, you can do it yourself. I've been, doing business by myself since 2016, but there comes a time when you actually need more help. So also, I'm going to be seeking help in terms of getting to consult a career coach, in terms of seeing how best I can develop myself outside academia as an independent research consultant, and also in so many other ways. I wouldn't want to share much. Therapy is also good if need be. It's not a service that I'm currently after, so I don't have much to say. But I've also realized there are times when you can't be engaging with friends or family, or maybe your challenges are also stemming from your interactions with such people, and you might need another person to speak to. And sometimes that person is not a religious leader, and sometimes that person, has to be someone you actually interact with on a regular basis, and they can help you to check in and also trace your progress, or trace your mindset in terms of your thoughts during a particular time, how you're healing, how you're grieving, how you're forging ahead, how you're dealing with the setback, and whatever the case may be. So for me, I also think therapy is also important. People also seek help, from religious or spiritual leaders. So that guidance is important if it works for you. Above all, God Almighty, our Creator, our Heavenly Father, listen, you need to speak to Him 24/7 even. I have really found solace in that. And the serenity I experience, even though I'm facing multiple challenges, is because of that. And God, I know, is also my leader, my guide, and also He provides discernment when I need it. So it is always important to always be grounded and mindful, and set your mind towards, always thinking about ways of improving upon yourself, and also reflecting in down moments, and ensuring that issues are addressed, and also thinking about ways in which you can also just debrief. And for me, prayer helps. All right. So also, you should also seek help from people who are gurus in your sector. That is very important. So I'm going to be actively seeking after people who are specialists in the areas I also want to specialize in. I can also try to reach out to them if they provide some form of mentorship. Otherwise, following people's social media, particularly LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, if they post about their work, following the talks that they do in person, or maybe even if it's through podcasts or other types of interviews, and also even reading the books that such people have read. So the power women that have inspired me over the longest time, I'm also very keen to continue following them, but also to find ways of engaging them in person, and if not, to also just gain inspiration and gain further guidance through the works that they've read, or through the interviews or discussions that they've had with others. All right, so number 4 is the importance of upskilling or reskilling. So upskilling implies that you're gaining new skills, you're forging ahead and whatnot. But as some of you may know, I already have a PhD. So I think when it comes to politics and international relations, I have done that in terms of like the academic graduation stages. However, reaching that stage doesn't mean that I've reached the peak. There's so much more that I can do. And also, so I've been thinking about ways in which I can couple up the skills I already have and the skills that I'm going to acquire as time goes on. So that is very important. I also consider the term upskilling to refer to ways in which you can improve your capacity to do your work, or ways in which you can improve your capacity and potential to do well in other sectors or in other areas that you've not formally explored. So it's very important. It could be learning a new language, it could be French, it could be Swahili, or local languages in places where you want to go to. It could be about upgrading, doing a new degree, a certificate course, a diploma, whatever the case may be, learning from online courses, and also maybe learning courses that aren't necessarily like traditionally something you would do in your sector. So for example, for me, I want to be improving my photography and videography skills, also gaining skills in digital marketing, because I think they will help me either as a person working for others, working for herself, or even when I'm managing projects. So I've also been learning French. So I hope to continue doing so and advance to a higher stage. And I know that it will come in handy in the long run. So also think about exploring new skills in new sectors and in new ways. And also your new skills can even, go beyond what I've mentioned. It could be within cooking, it could be baking, it could be handy skills like plumbing, whatever the case may be. Just always try to find ways in which you can just skill yourself up and learn new ways of doing things. In Shishona language, we say kudziza hakuperi, which means learning never ends. And I think it applies to learning in many ways. And one needs to be deliberate. It's not only about learning lessons from life's mistakes or from life's gains or from just, observing others. Do it actively and make sure that you're always on track with upskilling or reskilling yourself. It is your responsibility. If available, approach the people you work with or check your bank account for your own business. And if there's funds for you to do so, also tap into that to ensure that you continue to gain new skills. All right. So number 5. I've been thinking about how best to share this. Yes, being personal, but also being mindful that, this channel is a lot more about career advice and, mindfulness, living in the 30s, but not necessarily divulging like every little bit of information about my life. So don't leave your womanhood to fate. I came to this realization this morning, actually, when I was thinking about this video and thinking about how most of the lessons that have come, within this particular year haven't only been about my career. It's because I realized that the attitude of, when it comes to life, thinking it will happen if it's meant to happen, or if if it will happen, it will happen when it happens, doesn't really cut it. And here I'm speaking about when it comes to, for example, having children. I think at this stage, I must at least have an idea of whether or not I want to have them. And if I want them, when do I want to have them and how? However, of course, I might not have control over the when, but I have to think about the steps that have been provided, not only by God, but also the reality around me. So I've been reading up and watching some content on people who've done egg freezing, people who have done IVF procedures, people that have worked through, surrogacy processes, people that have adopted. I've always wanted to adopt, like ever since I was young. But it's not something that became like a solidified decision. But I just, came to the realization that it's also something that has been on the cards for me. So if I still have the desire to have children and I've not had them by a particular age, simply because maybe, there was no possibility of me meeting or being with someone who can be the father of the children or my husband and whatnot, I can still actually actively become a mother because I want to be. And, we always almost frame womanhood as, this one type of womanhood, a woman from a particular culture, nationality, or race should have her children this way, and this is the trajectory they follow. But that is not always the case. And sometimes if you do not have control over other factors that, for example, lead to you being a mother through natural processes, then you also have to think about other ways of achieving so. However, it's also important to even think about what would I do if I never adopted, if I never had children naturally, or if I never even explored to have a surrogate, for example. And these, I believe, are key points or thoughts that one can't just leave like to, when I get to 40 or 50, I'll think about it. I think it's also important to just always think about life in many ways. And for someone who almost always thinks a lot about her career, I think it's important to actually realize such and to start thinking about it, because, time will get to a stage where I might need to think more deeply about these, but having the initial thoughts, I think, is key and important. Also, I can't just leave my womanhood to fate. For example, in the past, some people only plan to travel in the form of a honeymoon, only plan to travel in the form of a work trip, only planned to buy property within the confines of a marriage and whatnot. So to also think about, as an individual, what would I want to invest in property wise? Where would I love to live? What kind of community do I want to belong to? Which country do I want to settle in? Those decisions can be made independently, particularly if you're not yet with someone. Travel. What can I do in terms of solo tourism if I'm so invested in travel? I think over the years, I've done so much. I've joined hiking groups. I do a lot of races. I run alone most of the time. I have done one runcation to Victoria Falls, and I look forward to doing many more runcations, by myself. So also to realize that you can be an individual entity and live life to the fullest in the absence of, people that you can't determine if someone will be in your life, or whether people will want to be with you. However, these independent thoughts, can be so overwhelming, because I was thinking about how this mindset helps because it's a cushion and it helps one to live within singleness. But I've never thought about myself, for example, in the sense that if I were to be partnered with someone, in the short run, medium term, in the long run, what would I be willing to forego or to go with? Because remember, this is a coming together of like more than one person. So yes, I've got my ideals and values. They've got their ideals and values. Where do they converge? And where they diverge, is there a way to sort of like bring things up differently and create a different life? I think same applies even to the choices and decisions around mothering. Yes, you might want to be a mother, but you might meet someone who wants 5 kids when now you want one, or you want 10 kids and they want two. So to also realize that once you involve one other person in your life, you may have to redefine your womanhood. And it's not necessarily a process of losing yourself, but it is also a process of coming together. And I think I've never really thought of myself in that sense, because I've only ever had to think of myself, as a young, single, unmarried woman, who aspires to build, who aspires to travel the world and do so many adventurous things. And yeah, just be a child of God and be happy. So I think it is important. So yeah, I know I promised 5 points, but I kind of have 7. So my number 6 is desirability, which I had written down under don't leave your womanhood to fate. So what is it about desirability? I think for me, I am currently living in my best body ever. That is what I believe, and that is how I feel. And I feel that way because it is a body I've accepted. It is a body I have been intentional about creating through sports, through meditation, through stretching, through a diet I love, and through also cultivating good sleeping habits. And what makes it more so the best body I've ever had is because of how much I've invested in understanding it. It's moments of pain and giving it rest. It's moments of strength and doing the most, and also realizing that whatever the world thinks about my body is on them, and I have to carve for myself the idea that I have the best body possible, and that what God gave to me is amazing. I say this because growing up, I used to be very affected by people's comments. You've got very big hands. You've got very big feet for a skinny girl. Also, why are you skinny? Your arms don't grow. You're not a perfect African woman. Your teeth are crooked. Your nose is too long. Oh my goodness, your forehead, all of it. I've heard it, And sometimes I did internalize that, and the detrimental effect was I did not feel that I was beautiful. I never felt that I was pretty. I never felt that I was desirable, which was fine because it became a survival skill. I didn't want to be called pretty, beautiful, or desirable. But then I realized that it's also okay to feel pretty, beautiful, or desirable. And it was upon me to decide to feel that way and to also remind myself that for God to have created me, I am an amazing being. And if I'm defining myself as not pretty, not beautiful, not desirable, does that mean that I'm the opposite of such? I don't want to believe that, right? So I have taken it upon myself to actually feel the best. And it's something that I really cherish. And it's something that I don't need any validation for. 21 years old, I felt like I was in my best body shape, but a lot of slim shaming put me down, and that lasted for over 10 years. I'm only now just 32 and accepting myself for who I am. I also appreciate the changes that have happened over the years. So yes, I have gained. For example, I was a size 6 at 21. I'm a size 8/10 now. And, I have had some gains and have embraced them. And I'm also not in a process of mourning the old body, because what often also happens sometimes is wanting to have what you had in the past when you felt a bit more confident, for example. So for me, I think it's been very important. Also talking back at people who shame me for what I am and what I have, and sometimes even just ignoring. God gave me feet. Who are you to declare their ugliness and their desirability as a 0 out of 10? I've got long hands. Who are you to tell me that they're just too large for my body and they shouldn't be on me, when the Almighty God who created me took his time and endowed me with them? So this is also a call to action for you to embrace yourself and love yourself as you are. And where you desire to make changes, do them without any social pressure. Maybe social pressure helps, I don't know, but I have not been pushed by society or what others say, because then I realize that if I do that, then I'm catering to them. And when their standard is not working for me, I will be further depressed. And also, never to wait for people to acknowledge or put a stamp of approval on your particular beauty. So that is where I'll end today with a particular point. What will I be doing in 2025? Continuing to do the activities that I like in terms of exercises, in terms of the diet that I've clarified for myself, in terms of like my intake of water and like cutting down on a lot of what could be toxic for my body. So I think, I'm on the right track, and I hope that you define what works for you as well. So the last one is, it's okay to fail and to restart. Renewal is normal. I'm saying this because 2024, my postdoctoral research fellowship ends. 2024, my time in Cape Town and South Africa ends. And 2024, I'm leaving academia, venturing into 2025, not knowing how exactly my year will pan out. I feel depressed. I feel sad. And, whenever I think about where I'm going and not being able to see beyond, the plans that are on paper, there is no offers yet. It may be stressful, but I believe that, the same God that led me from one point to the other will guide me. I also believe that I've developed the capacity to be self-sustaining with the skills that I currently have. I have the capacity to reskill and upskill and do better and do well in any sector that I venture into. And I know that if it so happens that I join someone working with them as a partner, or if I join an organization, or even if I go independently, I shall thrive. And I think having that base of thought, having that base of emotions, having that base of a mindset is important. So try and do the same for your school. You might have you've been put in a situation, you're going to be repeating a grade. You're going to be repeating a year in university. You have been laid off, or you quit a job and you're trying maybe to pivot, or you're trying to find ways of growing, rebranding as an individual, as well as maybe within a business. Just make sure that you really have a secure and airtight base of confidence, and also building up on that with resilience, and remembering that moments of failure do not define you permanently. This is part of life, and you shall excel. So this is a message to myself, but also a message to you, to all of you who celebrate Christmas. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and a happy festive season. Happy holidays to those that will be taking time off. And I wish you all a prosperous 2025. Thank you for being with me in 2024. And I hope we can continue doing this life journey together in 2025. It's goodbye for now.